You know me as Mark. But back a few thousand years ago, I was known as Azar, or helper. I was known as Azar, and I was aide de camp to Absalom, one of the sons of David. You must be thinking, why have I never heard of the name Azar? And you're right to ask. The name Azar obviously didn't make it into the Bible we know today. Although I definitely tried to reason with the different church councils, I even tried to bribe one of the committee to influence a vote. No such luck. As you can tell, for being a couple thousand years old, I've hardly aged a day. A little background. I knew King David well, but after a while, I saw that he was getting complacent. And let me tell you, after hearing how he sent Uriah the Hittite to the front lines so that he could chill with Bathsheba, well, I knew it was my time to throw in my lot with a dynamic up-and-comer. Enter Absalom. He was one of at least 8 children. 8 children, kind of same like me, same like myself. He was one of at least 8 children to King David and was described by the people of Israel as one with no blemish. Handsome in every way, kind of like me. But there was something really unique. There was something really unique about my friend Absalom. He had the biggest, baddest head of hair you've ever seen. When he got it cut, which was once a year, it weighed 200 shekels, or 5 pounds. I met Absalom right around the time that his brother Amnon I met Absalom right around the time that his older brother Amnon violated Absalom's blood sister Tamar. I've got to tell you, being in the room with Absalom, seeing him not show any emotion whatsoever, but knowing he had already formulated a plan to get Amnon back for his despicable act, I knew this was a guy who could get things done. Actually, I helped him carry out his plan to kill Amnon. It went like this. We invited all the king's sons to a huge party out in the countryside where we had set everything up from the best to eat and drink to the best entertainment possible. No expense was spared. By the early hours of the morning, while Amnon was singing a version of pre-Bohemian Rhapsody, and while everybody was getting a little bit loosey-goosey, I had some of Absalom's buddies shank him. We had our horses and camels ready for our getaway. They were already loaded with all our provisions, and we got out of there as quickly as we could while the rest of David's sons ran back home screaming to their dad about what just happened to their brother. I found out later that when King David heard about what had happened to Amnon, his son, he didn't eat for a week. I knew Absalom was good at getting things done. And I was reminded about this time and time again of how he used his wits and brain to accomplish his goals. For instance, when the captain of the guard, we called him Joab the hothead, when he sent Captain Joab to our camp, the captain had to tell Absalom that he was okay to come home. Absalom was super stoked. He could go home and accomplish the rest of his goals. One which was taking over his dad's throne. And two years later, we were hanging out, and the captain and David had not invited my friend Absalom to the palace. And this was due to Captain Joab not holding up his end of the deal. He'd been intentionally ignoring Absalom. So what did Absalom do? He set fire to Captain Joab's field, which was right next to his, And when Captain Hothead came by the house to give him heck, he simply said, "I was told I was restored. Now tell the king, my father, that I am wanting to see him." He said it so matter-of-factly, what guts? Good thing Absalom recently had me hire 50 trained fighters. I thought he was going to need them when I saw the steam coming from under the captain's helmet. But guess what? A week later, my friend was back in the palace, and he told me that his dad gave him the biggest welcome kiss he'd ever experienced. As I said earlier, Absalom knew how to get things done. And after he told me he wanted to be king, he set into motion events that would change Israel's course of history. Absalom was always dressed super cool, and people respected him. Although I don't have a digital of Absalom, here's a photo of Jeremy Meeks, the felon who went viral for his good-looking mugshot a couple weeks ago. I can tell you that this guy has nothing on my buddy Absalom. Absalom had a clear focus to win over the people. There was some sincerity in his approach. I saw him working to build up his community time and time again. For example, he got up early each and every morning before anybody else had even risen out of their beds and went and took his Lion of Judah chariot, similar to today's Bentley, and went to the city gates before they were open, hours before they were open. People from all over the country would come into town, and a lot of them had complaints to put before King David. But before they got 20 steps within the walls, Absalom would say to them, "How can I help you? What is it you need for success?" The person would tell Absalom where he was from and his grievance. And Absalom would always say, "Your problems are just and proper. But there is no representative of the king to hear your complaints. If you want someone to listen, you should have me as your king." On top of that, Absalom would not accept any bribes or tribute of any kind. In fact, he would always kiss the hand of the person who brought the complaint. And people loved him for it. Absalom was winning over the country, and it was like the palace didn't even care. Talk about free reign with no accountability. You'd better believe people stopped worrying about presenting their disputes to King David. In fact, I was under the impression the king stopped getting out of bed in the morning due to the fact that there was no traffic around the palace. It shows how people responded to my friend Absalom's dealings with them. And as well, it shows how effective Absalom was in settling disputes and getting people to work together to succeed. After 4 years of doing this each and every day, Absalom sent me to his dad to get official permission to go to Hebron to worship the Lord. Now, we knew what we were talking about, but the king agreed. And our secret plan was put into immediate action. Absalom and I worked out a strategy where he would finally be able to claim kingship over all Israel. He would do this from his place in Hebron, where he was supposedly worshiping the Lord. I sent messengers to all ends of Israel, to reps of all 12 tribes, that when they heard the sound of trumpets, they were to shout, "Absalom is king in Hebron." The trumpet blasts were to be the exact ones I sent with the messages. They were to sound like this. I found out that when David heard the sound of his son Absalom being crowned king, he fled his palace with his entire household, leaving just 10 concubines to take care of the place. As David fled with his family into the desert, I went with Absalom and his massive entourage into Jerusalem, right into the royal palace, where Absalom decided he would make a definitive statement by sleeping with the 10 concubines of David, in the sight of the entire city. There was no disputing that there had been a changing of the guard. Now there was to be a battle. Those who still believed in David as king against Absalom and his entire army. It all went down in the forest of Ephraim. There were over 20,000 deaths that day. And it is said that the forest swallowed up more soldiers than the battle did. It was horrifying. I was walking beside Absalom, who was riding his mule. And while we were making our way through the thicket, we ran into some of David's top men, including Captain Joab. As we approached each other, we went under an oak that had low-hanging branches everywhere. Suddenly I saw Absalom's head whip back. He was stuck. His hair had been caught in the tree of branches, in this oak tree. And his mule kept on going. He was literally hanging there. There was absolutely nothing I could do. I watched as Captain Joab took 3 javelins and threw them at Absalom, hitting his heart. And after, 10 of Joab's top men went to town on Absalom. All I remember is fading into that dreadful forest, wondering how such a great, ambitious man could end up like this. Fighting my way through the darkened thicket, I couldn't help wondering how Absalom's destiny could have been different, especially if he had worked on overcoming the negative values in his life, such as self-centeredness, insensitivity, and the incessant need to control every situation. As my feet slowly led me away from the scene, I reflected on these things and trudged on. As I look forward to today, I see a lot of people who fit the profile of my friend Absalom. People who are movers and shakers, people who know how to get it done, people who motivate others. These people include politicians from all sides of the aisle, as well as leaders in church, city, and school. It's interesting to dig deeper and find out exactly how high the cost of blind ambition runs. But there's something that has always bugged me about my friend Absalom. What would have happened if he had a mission that was bigger than his own status? What if he had core values and bedrock beliefs that outlined straight and true parameters for his life? What if he was held accountable by his dad and mentored in the ways of a great leader? I wonder how truly great our leaders could be with such things in place, where the good of all trumps the betterment of one. Even more, I wonder if I fit this category. In my time with Absalom, I definitely didn't have to think about accountability. We did what was necessary to accomplish our goals without any thought to the damage we inflicted. Now I'm here as worship arts director with accountability firmly set in place. When I was with Absalom, the only mission we had was to make him king of all Israel. Here at St. Paul's, I participate with people who are called to share a positive experience of God, something that's much bigger and more powerful than self. With Absalom, we didn't assess each other on goals and mission alignment, other than to make sure no one got in the way of our plans. Here at SPUC, I am one of the many people who are assessed and evaluated within the parameters of mission alignment. This is the ultimate concern you have for SPUC. Is the work of the leader fully aligned with the vision and mission of the church? High integrity, the alignment of skills and lifestyle with the values and beliefs of St. Paul's. The leader models these and strives to lead a spiritual life. Skills and competencies, the ability, intention, focus, and knowledge that one brings to an assigned task, that I bring to an assigned task, along with the willingness to learn and grow. A leader strives for excellence in all these things, and with the sole goal of accomplishing the mission of the church. Teamwork, the ability to be patient, cooperative, and supportive of others. Leaders work respectfully and cooperatively for personal growth and mission success. In reflecting on my time with Absalom, I know he would have been a great leader if he had the same parameters we have here at St. Paul's. He would have been trained to view people and their issues within a larger life-giving context. He would have made things happen that all would benefit from. He would have stayed away from battle and put his strategic mindset to use, bettering all his countrymen. He would have used his vast influence to share a positive experience of God with people. He would have held others to a higher standard that was focused on something way, way bigger and life-giving. He would have motivated others to do the same. You may wonder why I know this, and simply it's because I was there with him all those years ago, and now I'm here. My name might not be Azar or helper anymore, but as Mark or warrior, I've accomplished more than I ever did with my friend Absalom. All because of a dedicated focus on learning mission, our mission, which is change your life